rights, absolutely. For lots of reasons that, I think it just makes Canada look disingenuous and unconvincing and not credible that we claim to advocate, stand for human rights and so forth. And then when it comes to kind of a principal instrument in our own region that would bind us and even subject us to determinations of a judicial body outside of our state, we decline. That's I think it speaks volumes. So there's lots of reasons why we should. But my view is that's not enough. And actually, in terms of where human rights are going, what we should be doing, I'd rather turn to the idea of mainstreaming, and not mainstreaming in terms of having tokenistic discussions about human rights on the side of everything else, but I mean really integrating human rights ideas and standards really along the lines of human rights-based approaches to development, to governance, and so forth. Not only human rights, by the way, human rights is not a panacea. It's not the solution for everything. And just a word on property. I said I'm not an anarchist, but I will say more forthrightly, I'm in favor of free enterprise. That's part of human freedom. We should be able to pursue our creative ideas, to build, construct, and so forth. And we should have rights. There are human rights, for example, to benefit from one's own creative enterprise. For example, with regard to intellectual property and so forth. So artists and others should not be denied, and groups too, indigenous groups. Many of them are now complaining about appropriation and so forth. So they're actually saying, well, hang on here. These things are things which belong to us in some sense or are created. I'm all in favor of that too. And free enterprise and the benefits of that creativity, including that are then commercialized. I'm not against that either, but it needs to be conducted in a way which is coincident with and reaffirming human dignity. It should not be based on exploitation of others. This is where, we need to get this right. We need to rebalance this, or if balancing is the right word, I'm not sure it is. And I do think that there has been a problem with the institutions of the post-Second World War era, the World Bank, the IMF, and others, and as you say, Chicago School and others, who ran around the world, basically putting in place regimes, systems, but also political regimes that were favorable essentially to Western benefit or even overtly exploitation. That was awful. That was wrong. And that needs to be changed. And I would go a step further for those, from Chile or others who are engaged in these kind of questions domestically. Not only you have to take this on yourself to build a society, a dignified society of your own, but I am quite convinced that you should do that with confidence vis-a-vis the North. I think you've got something to teach the guys in Chicago and here in Canada too, about kind of reorienting what goes wrong with this, what is wrong with it. And so I think we need to have this fuller conversation at all levels, integrated in all domains. That, to me, that's the real mainstreaming, like really bring the concepts and norms and standards into the way we really organize and live. And by the way, it is a political activity. This is what politics is about. The Greek word of underlying politics is the polity. It's the city. It's where we live together. And we need to now do this. The world is a series of villages. We are interconnected. And that's what I mean by mainstreaming. But I'm convinced we can do it. We have the instruments to do it now more than ever. Technology is amazing. And I think it ultimately, if enough of us believe this and want to do it, it will be done.